All right, so we're already into the third episode of the season.
Yeah.
And Liv is helping you with some of the cases. What can you tell us that's going to happen with your character in upcoming episodes? Like, are you going to ever find out what she actually is and she's not psychic?
You know what? People ask me if Clive will ever find out if she's a zombie first, and I'm like, well, it's, he doesn't. I think he bought into the idea that she's just emo and goth, and that's the whole fashion thing. But in terms of being a psychic, he believes in psychics. There was this monologue in the pilot where he went on about his great aunt Debbie and how she predicted the sex of 9 of his cousins, accurately. So, and that's why he believes in psychics. So I think he'll ride with the psychic situation. But in terms of the zombie thing, unless he knows what brain smells like on her breath, and I don't think he knows what brain smells like, and plus she covers it up with hot sauce and sriracha and things, I don't think Clive will ever figure that out.
Well, so your character's last name is Babineaux, so that's almost like a Cajun New Orleans type
Creole,
of name.
yeah.
So are we going to see some backstory about your family, possibly a supernatural link?
That's actually interesting. We go a little bit into my backstory, but not too much. Mm-hmm. It's more about Clive getting better as a detective, because he started really as a newbie and just really inexperienced. So you get to watch him grow and get better at his job. You find out bits and pieces about his past here and there. In episode 4, you find out more about his come up as a detective, what he was like before making that transition. Hopefully in season 2 we get to find out, go to New Orleans or something like that and find out about his Creole roots.
I think part of his willingness to utilize her is because he's new, and so he's a bit of an outsider as well, and she obviously feels like an outsider because of her condition.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I look at it too. It's two outsiders working together, and trying to find a purpose, because he's so, he's a confident, self-assured guy, but he hasn't earned any of that on as this new detective. He hasn't earned it. People, they make fun of him. Like in the first episodes, they're teasing him and singing the Lady Gaga song. Yeah, and I'm like, he's like, bring it on. And that's kind of what he deals with every day. So I think he is dependent on her, and as well as she is on him, in terms of them having a similar purpose, and bringing these murder victims, killers to justice.
As your character grows and becomes a better detective, do you think there's going to be a point where he doesn't want to use her psychic ability and wants to see independently if he can actually solve?
There are moments during the show, especially next episode, when he thinks, I got this. But I think what starts to happen is they become friends, because they kind of started this relationship off without knowing anything about each other. All right, you're psychic emo goth. She looks at me. Oh, you're an overly dressed rookie detective who just doesn't know what he's doing. So, but once they become friends, I think it starts to become more of a partnership. Once he starts to learn about her situation, and she learns about, her backstory, and she starts to learn about his backstory a little bit. So you're watching this friendship that's developing.
You've done some work with procedurals in the past.
Yeah.
Aside from the obvious zombie angle to this show, do you feel like this as an actor follows the same pattern as other procedurals, or do you feel like this is something totally different?
For me, it felt completely different, especially with the character. Most procedurals, at least the ones that I watch, you walk in with a detective who knows what he's doing. He's been on the force for several years, so he got it all figured out. What was interesting about this character was this was somebody who does not have it figured out. And I remember watching, I was on a show called Breakout Kings on A&E, so I watched a lot of First 48, and they always had these rookie detectives. And so a lot of my research was, it never goes well for the rookie detective. They don't really know, they make a lot of mistakes. They don't know the right questions. Their heart's in the right place. So I love the fact that Diane and Rob, they were like, grow. He doesn't have to figure it out right away. You can play with him being naive at certain things, because that happens in real life. So that made it interesting for me. So I think that's what makes it different from your average procedural element outside of it being a criminal of the week. Yeah.
So how much of Clive is you, and how much of you are Clive? Because all actors kind of inject a little bit of themselves, but also try to add a different persona to their character. So, but there's always like a little bit of a.
Yeah, I connected with his willingness to kind of to learn and figure things out, and to kind of admit he doesn't have all the answers, and just growing up as as a man, I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning. I'm still growing every single day. And so just kind of bringing that element. I mean, we all are. We're all growing every day. And so just bringing that element into the TV show, into a character in a real way. Because like I said, I think a lot of people are used to those kind of archetypes having it all figured out. And I think it's interesting and more fun. No, he doesn't. You get to grow with him and say, wow, I remember Clive didn't know what the hell he was doing by the time you get to episode 10, 11, 12. So I kind of bring that kind of nuance to it. That's what we have in common.
Well, I think he's so fun.
I'll just say that really quick. This is probably, I think, the first show you've had that's got like kind of a fan base, like that brings you to events like this. What do you think of that? Well, is this your first convention?
Actually, Comic-Con was. Comic-Con
was the first one. So what do you think?
It's a dream come true. I mean, it's incredible. Just the whole fandom around it, the love, the energy about it, and just the comic book culture, which is also linked to the video game culture, and being I used to be a hardcore gamer, and I grew up reading comic books too. So it's been a dream come true. I never ever thought I would be in this realm. I never even envisioned it. But I cannot tell you how grateful I am that I'm having this experience.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Started, I have to tell you how much of a fan I've been since Alias.
Thank you.
I still reference you as Sark.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll take it. Sometimes I reference myself in the mirror as Sark.
So
You're going to do well today. You're gonna do all right.
So this character is obviously a little bit different than some of the other supernatural type of characters you've played, like with Vampire Diaries and things like that. What did you do to prepare for the role or anything? And did you watch any zombie movies to see any?
Well, I lost 20 pounds from the pilot to the second episode. And then once you get in the makeup and you get in these like rocker chic clothes and you start to develop a bit of this zombie swagger that I wanted Blaine to have. So it's that as far as research and stuff like that, no, I didn't do any of that because we're a different kind of breed of zombie. We're thinking zombies who need to eat brains to maintain our humanity, if you will. So yeah.
Yeah, so in the last episode, we saw one of the partygoers who didn't quite fare well, who's been stuck inside this container and is got full-on zombie and because she hasn't been able to be fed. Are we going to see some more of those types of zombies? Because you're obviously creating more zombies as well.
Right. Yeah, we are going to see those more Walking Dead zombies, because those exist in our world. If you don't get the brains you need, you become them. You become ravenous. You become dangerous. So you will see some more of that. Yeah.
You've played a lot of villains in a lot of different places, but what I find interesting about this character is he's got a bit of comedy to him. How do you like playing this versus the other, and what do you bring to this role to give it that little extra bit?
I that's what really drew me to this project was the humor in the script. I couldn't stop laughing in the pilot script, and I was, for the whole of my career, I haven't really been allowed to do a comedy. You play a bad guy once, and you're not really. I think that's all you can be. And again, I'm a bad guy, but I'm calling this a Zomcom Rom-Drom. So I jumped at the opportunity to be a part of it. And the lines that, our great writers and Rob and Diane, they come up with they're just fantastic, and they're so much fun to say. So it's very easy to be funny when, under their tutelage.
And your character seems like he walks the line between sort of impulsivity and being really calculating and diabolical. How is that for you to play and achieve that mixture of the two?
Yeah, that's good insight. I would agree with that. I don't know how to answer that. It's just again, you just try to play the truth of every line, and sometimes the impulsivity comes off, and sometimes the calculated. He has designs. He has designs on taking over the town, but sometimes he can't, get out of his own way.
On that same note, sometimes the mustache twirling the villains of a piece aren't always the most interesting.
Yeah.
So what motivations do you bring to this character? What makes your character unique that he's not a villain in his own mind? Or is he?
You know what? I like to say, I get asked that question a lot because based on, the canon of my work, all I've played is bad guys. So I usually use the stock answer of he lives his life like it's right, like he's doing the right thing. If you don't see it as right, the protagonist in the story doesn't see it as right, that's too bad. Because he's the protagonist of his own story. But Blaine, he's a bad dude, man, and he doesn't mind being bad, and he likes being bad. So there is going to be some humanizing storylines you'll see through the first season, but that comes to a halt quickly.
Can you tease us at all about upcoming episodes? Anything there allowed to say?
I'll tell you, there's love in the air. You're going to get inside of my operation. My brain dealing operation. You're going to meet some of my zombie army, if you will. That's about all I can. I don't know how much I'm allowed to tease.
Well, will we find out how you became a zombie? There's obviously an origination, so will we see that backstory at all? How
yes,
you and Liv?
There will be. That goes through the entire season. Trying to get to the bottom of why we became zombies and how to cure zombies and we'll see all that.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
You did. You stuck to your word.
So what can you tell us about your character's backstory? Will we see some of that this season, of how you became...
No.
No? Okay, thanks for the blunt answer.
Cheers. Thank you. Not really. And I kind of like it that way. My favourite characters are the ones who just are. I think sometimes characters, when you over-explain too much about their background, they lose some of the magic behind it. I'm not saying he's magical, but, that I love Darth Vader, for instance, right up until you decide to find out that he was a 9-year-old boy, pod races, and so it kind of serves me to that sense. I mean, he at this stage in season 1, he kind of represents the audience. He's there as someone for Liv to sound off at, in terms of his backstory and family, friend, anything like that. No, there isn't anything of that, but I think they with Clive and with Ravi, that's something that they might explore later.
But is that something that drew you to this role, that there wasn't really much backstory, that you were kind of just a singular character?
What, is in the prep I was given?
Yeah, there was no backstory.
Well, they gave me, it was literally just, as a fully formed character, it was well, he has these traits, so he's energetic, he's hyper, he's got verbal diarrhea, and he's into mysteries and Loch Ness Monster and stuff like that, so they gave me that kind of stuff. And then there was small hints that he worked for the CDC, so he was, so he's clued up on the diseases and stuff. Everything else was just up to us, really. We kind of did what we could. I made my own backstory, which is just fan fiction, I guess. It's good. Rob hasn't approved it, so. but yeah, that's it's he kind of just is. Yeah.
Did you get a sense of gratification to bringing authenticity to a character that could have been a stereotype? You know, being of a certain ethnic background to play a doctor.
Yeah.
You know, that's not revolutionary necessarily, but like there's actual substance to the character.
I want to say it was fluke, and it's one of those two things. I didn't want to play a stereotype. I'm not a stereotype as a person. I don't fit into. I'm an actor. I come from a kind of culture of doctors and lawyers, and same. And I came out of that, and we are as people, all of us, far more diverse than just what our skin colour is. And I think Diane and Rob also, knowing me as a person, felt that, and this is how I feel anyway, what's more relevant to Ravi than being Indian is being British, and that's the same as me, but that has more of an impact on who I am as a person than where my great-great-grandparents were from. And with Ravi, it was kind of like, we never make any references to his ethnicity, other than his name, which is a typical Indian name. Other than that, no, he's just a. It's fun to not have to have any of that baggage. I don't have to drag anything with that. You can just play the enthusiastic, nerdy doctor. And there's some stuff that we do later on in the season that I'm really happy about, in terms of like interracial relationships and stuff that happens. And for me, it's I feel so lucky that my first role is something different that people of all cultures can see and not feel like, oh, I've seen this before. This is the same. I'm very lucky to play him.
What did you think about the fact that in the pilot they skipped past the whole mystery of are her friends going to figure out that she's a zombie, and he like immediately just knew it. So I thought that was a great.
Well, I guess it just cut straight to the point.
Right.
He needed to know. The audience, she needs to talk about it, other than just through VO, just voiceover. So it kind of didn't make any sense to kind of string it out when we're going to hide it from Clive, we're going to hide it from the family, they're going to hide it from the people she meets. Someone needed to know, and Ravi figured it out anyway. And it just, I think it's great for me and Rose to play that. At the same time, I think it's good for the audience just to cut straight to it. He knows, cool. He's excited, like that's it, end of story. And then how we play, and it adds an element of fun, having two characters know and then others don't. Because a lot of the comedy comes from Clive, and you see this throughout the season, being slightly naive to what's going on, obviously, and can't spoil stuff, but it's just that's where a lot of the humour comes from, is hiding that secret. And yeah, so.
Can you talk about your background in comedy and your experience that has allowed you to be so strong on the show?
I have no background in comedy. I did a little bit on stage. I'm very inexperienced as an actor. This is my first real role. I'm a huge fan of Ricky Gervais. And I think a lot of the time I have to be reined in from doing impersonations of David Brent when we're on set. And
As you do.
As you do, exactly. But Rob left one, and he felt there was one take. He was like, it's classic Gervais. He was like, we'll have that as an homage. But no, I'm just a fan of good comedy TV shows, and they write funny as well. They're great at pop culture lines and witty banter. But me and Rosie, we were very lucky that we got on very well quickly. We have the same sense of humour, so a lot of those beats and stuff just come from us. It's not rehearsed, it's just two people who get on. That's it.
Okay, guys, I have to move.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Okay, we'll have you come over here.
She's awesome. She's just the nicest lady ever, and she's really hard to look at, but I can get past it and just try to find something likable about her.
So,
Hi.
with me not being familiar with the comic books, the iZombie comic books,
You don't
the
need to
coloring of the zombies, it's really obviously very pale.
Yeah.
What was the decision about how is that?
Well,
with
in the comic, she does look a lot like the Gwendolyn character looked in the comic. And if you think, like, if you're dead, like, you're going to be, like, if you're sick, you get pale. So if you're dead, you're going to get pretty pale, you know? So that, we definitely wanted to respect the look of the comic, so that was our decision. And also we wanted zombies to stand out, but so there's that fine line of you want them to stand out, but they have to stay attractive, because you can't just have, like, they can't be standing out because half their cheek is missing and they're going like this, you know, so, like, they have to stand out for some other feature, hence the white hair and the pale skin.
Is your show going to be? So far, I've seen the first 4 actually.
Oh, okay.
But everything's been pretty much very not serialized, the opposite of serialized. So my question is, are you going to introduce like a ongoing kind of a through line? I mean, for the villain, I guess he does have kind of an ongoing story.
Yes,
but
I think you were just introduced to that, and well, no, because you've seen 4. The Blaine character moves into prominence, and well, you see him obviously in 2. He's moved into prominence, but that zombie kind of storyline is the overarching story of the first 13. And there's that's our Lily Kane, maybe, if you watch Veronica Mars, like, that's our ongoing kind of story, and we'll learn more about that. And then there'll be different elements of that zombie story that are kind of, that I can't tell you about, but it'll come into play later. But
You and Rob have been doing the writing on the first few episodes, and I'm curious how you've enjoyed the writing experience so far and what you look forward to with upcoming writers.
Rob just chains me in an office and says, "Write, monkey, write," and I just go, okay. But it's been great. I mean, working with Rob, we've worked together for 10 years now. We did 3 seasons of Veronica Mars, we did the movie, we did Cupid, like, we've done a ton of stuff together. So writing with him is great. I have a nervous breakdown every time, because I'm one of those people that thinks that she's going to get fired every time I write a script. So, but it's been great. And we have a lot of writers from the first season that are coming back for the second season. People that we were very excited about, who just really knocked it out of the park. We had 2, Graham Norris and Deidre Mannion, 2 of our, like, stars on the staff, and Kip Boss, who's amazing. His episode airs. He wrote 4. His episode will air this week, but he wrote for Bob's Burgers, and so you think, like, iZombie, Bob's Burgers, 6 of 1, half a dozen, right? No, like, he's amazing. He's super smart, and he did a great job. But the writer's room on the show is so fun, because you're getting to write a zombie show in which zombies exist in pop culture, and you get to have all those discussions about the world and the rules and what they know and what we can do and how we'll do it different. And to do it different, you have to have a knowledge of what exists out there, which is where I kind of come into play and just love to talk about it. So if you guys want to just talk about the season finale of Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, I just said Game of Thrones instead of Walking Dead, because I'm obsessed with both. But to the point where I'm so excited that also, because I am a total nerd, that Arya is going to be on fucking Doctor Who. Did they read my diary? How is that happening? I want to get the girl from Orange and Black.
Tatiana.
Oh yeah, Tatiana's great.
I love that you're like, Tatiana, my butt. I just can't, like, I don't even know actors' names. Like, I call Rose
She's like
Liv.
the Brando of the 21st century.
She's ridiculous. How does she exist out there in the world and is just walking? And how does she not win an award? That's what I want to know. Like, did she not win an Emmy?
She's been nominated, but she hasn't won.
She's amazing.
She gets snubbed because it's a sci-fi show. It's a genre show.
It's like the best. It's crazy.
Quick question, writing question though, is which one of the characters so far? I mean, you've written pretty far into first season.
Yeah,
finished.
we're wrapped.
So, who is your favorite character to write for? Whose voice comes to your head really easily?
Ravi.
Yeah.
Actually, Blaine sometimes, because I love a villain, and a bitchy, superior villain is kind of my wheelhouse. I don't know why, but so he's pretty fun. But Ravi is just, I love Rahul, and he's great fun to write for. It's fun to write for Liv too, but in a different way, because you want to, like, put her in situations that you kind of just want to mess with her. Like, you want to mess with the actress. It's like, what skills do you have that we can write into the episode so we get to see you be our little puppet and act it out? So I'll call her and be like, "What can you do a split? Do you do karate? Can you sing? Can you dance?"
I have to steal you.
Thank you so much.
Rose, I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's also it's for me, I mean, I want people to know that I appreciate it, but also it's so great to actually get real feedback from people watching the shows, you know, numbers and that stuff doesn't really mean anything to me, especially coming from New Zealand. We had 3 channels, and like I had no idea that ratings even existed, and so coming out here, that to me is the best way to get a response from people and really see what they're enjoying on the show and what works and what doesn't. I like Twitter.
So how do you maintain an essence of who the character is when she's receiving all these new traits and abilities each week?
It's a delicate balance. I think it's fun to go down the characteristic kind of trip with Liv and all of the things that she takes on, these attributes and the skill sets, and it's so novel and funny and interesting, but I really didn't want that to compromise the integrity of her overall storylines and relationships. So I think there's a nice way of weaving it in where sometimes the characteristics that she inherits are funny and sometimes they are really compromising and really serve the conflict and the drama. Yeah, so just making sure that it doesn't ever become just a silly kind of hat that she's wearing is important to me.
As the conflict is growing on the show and as the relationship between your character and Clive moves forward, how long do you think your character will be able to keep that secret without really betraying that friendship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Clive is a saint. He really is able to accept that Liv has a skill set that he doesn't understand, and I mean, it serves him as well. It definitely helps him, get his cases, but he respects that secrecy and that distance, I think, that she has. There are definitely some episodes coming up where he's very surprised by her behaviour and it's pretty inexplicable, and she almost gets discovered quite soon. So yeah, there's some interesting little examples of where that becomes a huge problem for them.
So the part about you having to eat brains to stay normal, so to speak, that as an actor, like the stuff that they have to give you to eat, like was that an aversion for you? Did you have to kind of get used to brain-like food?
Yeah, it was always coconut agar, which is like gelatin. The first episode we tried a few different things. We did, when we were shooting the pilot, it was like fondant, which is icing, and then soy protein, like tofu kind of things. But it was just a mixture of like that with corn syrup that was horrific. We managed to get it to coconut agar looked the most convincing, and it also was bearable to eat, so that worked. It's hard to make it look pleasurable.
Yeah, because you have some interesting ways to eat brains.
Yeah.
With noodles, crackers, and sriracha. It's just very
variety, spice of life. Yeah. She's not getting idle. She's not resting on any old recipes.
Yeah.
You've done a number of projects that have had sci-fi or fantasy elements to them, and in this case, supernatural. Do you find that these genre shows or movies give you different tools as an actor?
Absolutely, and I think it's really important to me because while I've done those, I've also worked on a lot of drama, and I really like the idea that what makes fantasy or supernatural shows compelling is when you can really relate to those characters and they're really accessible. And it's why I love 28 Days Later so much. It's this fantasy story, but it's so human, and it's about a struggle with family and with identity, and that to me is this show as well. It's what sets up the comedy. It sets up the high stakes for everything, and it makes it. I know when I watch a show, if I see somebody hamming it up and being really surreal and bizarre, it's distancing, and it's quite easy to detach from it. So I really try with Liv and with any of those shows that I've sort of worked on to make sure that she has integrity and believes what's happening.
Because of some of the different things you've had to do on the show when you eat the brains, is there something they've asked of you that you're like, wait, I can't do that?
There's been so many of those things, and they say, well, you've got 3 days, learn. I'm like, oh, okay. What have they asked of me recently? It was quite funny. I played cheerleader in episode 12, and I started getting these just frightening texts from Diane, our writer, saying like, can you cartwheel, and like, how cold is it right now? Is skirts okay in Canada? And I was like, oh no, what are we in for? I think the nature of that device and of the show is that I do always get these ridiculous things thrown at me. But it's also why I love this role. It's so fun to be able to play a different character each week. And yeah, it is the balance of maintaining Liv as well, but it keeps it so interesting and refreshing, and there's always a challenge.
In the first episode, you had to speak Romanian. Is that something that you already knew how to do?
Nope.
Or?
Nope,
Because
never.
spoke it so well, like
Oh,
you just
thank you.
flew off your tongue. So
We did
you a lot
about
of
2 o'clock
practice?
in the morning on a night shoot. A Romanian dialect coach turned up and lured me into some other room and just sat down and read sentences, and I recited them back. So that was the prep for that.
I like how you use the word lured.
yeah, I was sort of stumbling around like I got these contacts and I had read contacts and sitting listening like what? Oh, I'm trying to remember a phrase off the top of my head. Do I know any Romanian still? Chennai. I think that's what the hell? Yeah. It's just going down memory lane, but yeah, it was all a bit of a blur.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility because you're like the strong female lead to kind of like be the good example for all like the young female viewers to like be inspired?
Well, I think largely that's done in the writing. I mean, I've been so lucky to be able to play various characters in my life that I've felt are complex, well thought out female characters. But I know that it's not always that lucky, and I know that with Diane and Rob, they have a track record for that not having to be a novelty or something that reeks of any artifice. That's just an interesting female, and that should be able to be a lead. And so it hasn't even really been something that's occurred to me. I hope that girls take away that you don't have to conform to certain societal ideals of what we look like or how we behave. I think that's really awesome. So I like that that's sort of a role model element of it. But yeah, I mean, I hope that guys like the show too. It's, I really hope that everybody can watch Liv and find her accessible and take something away.
Anders hinted that there was romance coming up in some upcoming episodes. Was he talking about his character or your character or some weird, scary combination?
There's romance for both, actually. Yeah, there's some stuff that will, I think, will keep everybody on their toes. I think it's always hard because Liv is very much still in love with Major to move on. But there's zombie suitorage to come.
What is the makeup process every day? Because
about an hour and 45 minutes in the morning, and then about 45 minutes to take it off at the end of the day. And it's white sprayed like airbrush. Then that goes into my hairline, and because it's such a fine lace, the wig, so we have to spray this stuff. And then it's dark eye makeup and all sorts. It has to be waterproof because we shoot in Canada, so there's a lot of like fixings. Terrible for my skin, I'm sure. I'll do a few facials in the hiatus.
We talked to Rob about the staying power of the zombie genre. Do you feel like this show is a departure from the genre, or do you feel like it's just a part of the genre expanding into other target audiences, or just a new medium?
Yeah, I mean, I think that each project that comes up explores zombies in such a different way. There isn't like a zombie. I mean, Night of the Living Dead is a classic, but Shaun of the Dead or 28 Days Later, or all these things, you can almost not put them in the same genre. They explore them in such different ways, and I think our show is very much like that. It's an idea of zombies, and it's a way of looking at them, but it doesn't subscribe too heavily to anything like that. I don't think of us as a zombie show at all. It's a comedy and a drama and a zombie and a procedural.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I just met
Ready.
You look like
How's
you're
everyone?
awake.
I look what?
You look like you're awake now. Got your coffee ready to go.
I know, right? Oh my god, for coffee. How's everyone's WonderCon?
Doing good.
Hey, yourself? Yeah. Well, I haven't had a chance to even hit the main floor yet.
Is this your first time?
No. I've been a comic fan since I was a little kid, so this is my first WonderCon though. Which is wild because I grew up in Claremont, so this is the closest con to me. But it's my first time doing WonderCon. But San Diego, New York, and Paris, I've done.
Oh, cool.
This is my
I live
first.
in Rancho Cucamonga, so...
You live in Rancho?
Yeah.
Get out! All right, we're neighbors, man.
So what can you tell us about Major's development over the next few episodes? Because obviously him and Liv have split, but he doesn't really know why she's done that. So will we see any further developments and maybe him discovering her secret?
Well,
or are they going to try to keep that as...
Yeah, if I fully answer that question, caring guy he is, he starts to look into it, and it leads him to some, pretty disturbing, dark places. The second half of the season for Major is a 180 from like episode 13. It's unrecognizable from episode 1. Like it's awesome. As an actor, it was so much fun to get to play like where we got into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, you guys. Have a good day. Thank y'all.